I really, really think that he's a great person, and he's always been so good at carving his own path. Literally, it still blows my mind to be the black sheep of the family, the only one in entertainment, and do the things that he was able to do, like win a show, dance on stage with like Taylor Swift, Bruno Mars, and fly all over the world. Like who does that? You did that by yourself. And that's why, even though I know with the pandemic, obviously mental health, it was tough, but he's going to find his way. And I'm so confident in that. Maybe a little too confident where I'm like, oh, you're good on your own. You don't need me. But I think that's a part of it too. It's like, I thought he was so good on his own. And I forgot to ask, like, hey, do you need anything from me? Yeah. Maybe that's something that I just need to do. Like, what do you need from me? Like, how can I help? Because I've always thought he was like the coolest person on the planet.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. I'm Mario.
And I'm Peter.
And we're
Guys That Listen.
On today's episode, we have the owner of Sampa and Case of the Mondays, Filipino legend, Jenny Valles. Woo!
Oh my God. I'm laughing at Filipino legend. I'm like, am I even there yet? I don't think so.
We hope you are. We believe you are.
I believe you are. I think so.
You.
She cooks, she dances. Do you sing?
No, that I don't do.
Oh. Basketball?
Definitely no
Boxing.
basketball. Not like Manny Pacquiao.
Okay, there you go. That counts.
Close enough.
Tell us a little about yourself, Jenny.
Cool. I am a multi-hyphenate. Let's see. Let's start with professionally.
Okay.
Professionally, I've been in marketing for almost 11, 12 years now.
Whoa.
Oh, wow.
Crazy. Yes. Not recently, but pandemic recently, branched out on my own, started up my own social media marketing agency. Also started a pop-up restaurant called Samba, as you had mentioned. So running that as well. And personally, I am a wife, a sister, and a daughter.
It's like crazy because obviously I haven't seen you in a bit. And I knew you opened up the restaurant though, but I hear about your restaurant a lot.
Yes, yeah. I know. I was about to say that too. I haven't seen you in a hot minute, and when I saw you slide in my DMs, I was like, "Oh my God!"
It's been a while. When was the last time I saw you? I feel like it was like 4 or 5 years ago.
It
maybe?
had to have been.
It was in LA, right?
Yes.
I think we were at Lock and Key or something.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
I mean, where else would we go?
Yeah, I think we were with Liz
Yes.
and Michelle.
Yes. Shout out to Liz.
Yeah, shout out to Liz. I haven't seen her in a while too, but
I know.
Dang, I feel like I have a lot to catch up with you because, obviously I knew the marketing stuff, but how did the restaurant happen?
Okay, so we're gonna dive right in.
All
All right,
right.
we're diving
Right
right in.
in.
We're diving right in. Okay, so Josh Espinosa, he's a chef. I am not the cook because I could get down in the kitchen, but not like him. He's been cooking professionally for over like a decade now.
Oh, wow.
And he had this idea in his head, and he knew me, like I had all this business experience, marketing, and he came up to me, he's like, hey, I have this idea. Do you want to help me with it? And we've been best friends for so long. We've known each other since we were 16 from the dance community.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And we danced on Cabo Modern together. We were audition partners.
Oh, wow.
So we've just had so many parallel lives until we branched out professionally. And then he was like, hey, I have an idea. Do you want to help me? And of course, me being like, yeah, I would do anything for you. That's how it started.
Wow. So what was the concept? Like, obviously, I know it's a lot of Filipino dishes.
Yeah, so it's the brainchild of Josh's. Basically, it's Filipino American. Yes, what does that mean, right? Because regular Filipino food. Have you ever had Filipino food before? I know you have. Have you ever had Filipino food before, where it's very family style? It's very like big pig, big trays, and it doesn't look pretty.
Oh, the lumpia, I forgot the other ones.
Lumpia,
I know.
Pancit.
Yeah, pancit. You got the lechon.
Lechon. What I really want to try is kare kare.
Okay, I got you.
Yes.
Oh, dang.
I've been waiting.
Peanut butter stew.
I've never tried it.
It's okay. It's interesting.
Yeah?
It's not my favorite. Because maybe I like peanut butter on peanut butter jelly sandwiches, but with stew, it's hard.
Ooh,
Interesting. Okay. That's funny because one of our guests, Matt, he's also a Filipino chef. That's his favorite dish.
Yeah.
Oh, he loves it?
I've asked 2 other Filipinos and they've told me the same thing, kare kare.
What? Yeah. Mine's chicken adobo.
Chicken adobo is really
Yeah,
good though.
chicken adobo is good, yeah.
Like very, very good. We used to have we saw my friend Mary, she would come around Christmas and she would make like just a huge like batch of chicken adobo.
Yeah.
Perfect for potlucks.
Yes.
Perfect.
And that is Filipino style. It's like
Yeah.
big batches, potluck, family, feed the family,
Yeah.
and it's not so pretty. I think
That's
there's
the only Filipino food I've ever had. Just
Yeah.
like that. Just exactly like that.
yeah, and it's very functional. That makes sense, which is very ingrained in our culture. It's like functional.
That's interesting because have you had Kamayan dinner?
I did actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I had it once.
Because to me, I feel like that is very presentable.
Yes, with
Would
the
you say?
banana leaves
Yeah.
and everything.
That's
like,
different
set
though. Like
out.
when you have the family potlucks, it's in the gray aluminum thing, the aluminum thingy.
Yeah, yeah.
You have 1, 2, 3, 4, like 8 of those,
Yes.
and then you have the titas. Like, oh, you want some more?
yeah,
You say American?
yeah.
Also?
So because everything's so big and plentiful and functional, Josh's idea was if Japanese, Chinese, Korean food can be upscale, right? Why can't Filipino food be upscale like that? And it's because, with his background in fine dining, he's like, if I could do this for like Vietnamese food, Japanese food, whatever, I could do this for Filipino food because we have so many beautiful flavors. Why not?
Yeah.
And the reason why it's Filipino American, it's because it's not just chicken adobo, lumpia, lechon, which I love.
You come into this fancy restaurant, they give you like a whole tray of just
With
like
aluminum foil.
You're wondering like you're paying like $70 a person.
Yeah. And it's because we're SoCal kids, right?
Yeah.
Like we grew up LA, San Diego, Orange County. We're inspired by Mexican cuisine, Korean cuisine. So we just mixed what we grew up on with the food.
Dang.
Yeah. And that is Sampa.
How long did it take for you from the concept to when you started the pop up?
Oh man. So during the pandemic, wow, it feels so long ago.
This
even
was
just thinking
during
about
the
it.
pandemic?
During the pandemic,
Whoa.
when all the restaurants were shut down, and no one was like going out to eat, nothing. So Josh was like, "Oh, now's the perfect time to do my pop up. Like, let's do it."
Yeah.
Since everyone's ordering takeout, I was like, "Okay." So we were cooking out of his apartment. And people bought from us. And so there was this platform, if you're a foodie, it's called Talk. So they reached out to us. We're like, oh my God, we've seen you on social media. Onboard us so people could start ordering from you. And we're like, okay, cool. So we put it on Talk and it has all these fancy restaurants. They were like listing us next to like Michelin star restaurants for
Whoa.
takeout just because our food looks so good. It was beautifully plated. The photographs are great. And so people would order from us and they would drive up to Josh's apartment. Mind you, this is like we say downtown, but it was like Westlake downtown, like historic Filipino town. Apartment complexes side to side. They roll up and they're like, oh, I thought this was a restaurant. And then we'd hand them the bag and be like, no. And they're like, where do you cook out of? We're like, there's a community kitchen over here. We do it. But we definitely did not cook in a community kitchen. It was definitely in the apartment.
How was that? I mean, when people ask you that, like, I'm assuming you're like, oh, what do I tell them?
Yeah. No, I mean, obviously we're like, oh yeah, we have a community kitchen. But no, we were legit cooking in the apartment. It was crazy because his apartment turned into a kitchen with like speed racks everywhere, ingredients
wow.
everywhere, and then we had to like package the food. So there was all this packaging around. Like it was wild. It was a hot mess.
I love that so much just because there's this underlying current of people we've had on the show who during the pandemic, they just hustled and like you see the return on investment now. David, Sammy, a bunch of people who like went to, basically social media or the internet, like to, whatever they're passionate about. And now like we talk to them now, like, yeah, I got my start during the pandemic. Yeah, like the time I started posting these videos, I started doing this and I was like, whoa, like you see that kind of mindset in these kind of people who like, even if like, the world's kind of burning, like, let's hustle, like let's make something happen, let's create.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So as unfortunate, it's great that you said that because as unfortunate as the pandemic was for a lot of people, the pandemic changed my life. It was
wow.
probably one of the best things that ever happened to me. Really? Tell me why.
Wow.
For me
Your turn.
personally, it's just I got to spend so much more time with my family. We got closer. We got to and there's this like lull in the world where everything was quiet. It was silent. There wasn't like this constant like the rat race, where you have to like hustle every day, and it just kind of like made us closer. But also, like, I realized a lot of the stuff that I was doing week to week, like I was just forming these like weird habits, like, oh, I have to go out all the time, like I have to go do this, and it just like it helped me recalibrate. It helped me get back to like being who I want to be, and it was for me, it was the best time. It was so because I am an introvert at heart. And it got to like a point where it's like hanging out with my family every day. And for me, business was fine. Like I do commercial cleaning, so even when like everything else is going bad, people still need cleaning. People need us to like do biohazard cleaning. What if somebody with COVID is here? Like my stuff was fine. It made it more for me to get closer to the people that I love.
I love that. Well, when I asked you, what about you? How does the pandemic change you?
It was terrible.
I'm turning this around.
It was terrible.
It was terrible.
Oh, yeah, it was hard. I mean, during the pandemic, my grandma died. I had a friend kill himself and his wife. It was a lot of bad things. Obviously, I ran the Feel Good Collective, and we couldn't do events. So me and Don had to find jobs, like 9 to 5s. And I felt like everything got stripped away, And at that time, I was in a relationship that was extended, for lack of a better word. Because we're just like, well, who else are we to see? Might as well stay together.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I just felt like I can't do the things I want to do. I can't see the people that I want to see. So I had to change my life around, So that was hard. That was really hard. It made me really reflect a lot on who I was. But I guess the silver lining was because of the pandemic, that's why I started the podcast back up. Because during that time, I went through like a depression phase for a bit. I was just like, not me. I was in my room looking at my, ceiling and just laying in bed in darkness for like hours for no reason, Not even looking at my phone, nothing, just feeling like nothing. I was like, what's going on? This is not me. But then when I would get like spurts of motivation, I would do research and I would figure out like how to get out of this funk. So eventually I would post this stuff because I was like, maybe a lot of people are going through this too. I feel like the one time we're going through it together would be right now. So I would post the things that I would find, like I would meditate. I would write 3 things that I'm grateful for. I would reach out to people. I would, go on walks and work out and stuff like that. And eventually my headspace got better. Like when I would feel better for longer periods of time versus at the very beginning, it's like, I'll feel better for like a minute and I'll go back to like being my mopey self. But because I posted online, a bunch of people started reaching out to me and they're like, hey, you're going through it right now? I was like, yeah. And they're like, thank you for sharing because I'm going through it right now too. And the things that you're telling us to do, it's helped me out. So then I made a couple of accountability buddies where we check up on each other like once or twice a week. And then we would just be like, how's your day? What did you do to help improve your week this week? And eventually it just became too much because I started feeling better and then therefore I was more motivated to do more things. So I got too busy to catch up with them every week. So I was like, well, how about I do it on a bigger scale where, I could speak to a bigger audience. A lot of people might be going through it and maybe it'll help some people. So then I talked to Mario. I was like, hey, I kind of want to start the podcast back up, but with different underlying tones of, let's do this to entertain, but also maybe help people feel better and talk about things that, it's kind of uncomfortable sometimes. So we started back up and it's been almost a year now.
Yeah. It's almost a year now.
Yeah.
Oh my God, congratulations. But it makes sense because I haven't seen you. We were just talking about it. I haven't seen you in 4 years, which is, it's 2023. The pandemic was 2020?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it makes sense timing wise.
That's true. And during this time, I mean, obviously, like you guys got something great out of it. I feel like that's going to be the case for a lot of people. And there are going to be people like me who, there was a lot taken away. But now it's kind of like, I feel like those 2 years just disappeared, during 2020 to 2022. So now I'm trying to live it up. Obviously, I just came back from like a crazy trip.
I love it.
It's like inspired me, because I used to travel a lot. And during the pandemic, I couldn't go anywhere. So I was like, now I'm going to make up for lost time,
Right.
Yeah. Didn't you, during the pandemic, obviously a lot has changed because you're married now.
I am married.
Pete, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Peter is my husband. What
What a great name.
Great name.
Yeah, great name. That was during the pandemic?
2019, so it was
Oh,
right,
right
right before the
Before.
pandemic. Yeah.
Dang.
Would you say the pandemic helped solidify your marriage, like made you guys closer because you guys were forced to like stay in, or was it the opposite?
You know, I think it was the same for us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think, I mean, this is the reason why I got married or why we got married. It's because we already had such a great foundation, and the pandemic didn't make us closer. Sure, because we were stuck in my shoebox apartment. Like it was like 650 square feet, and we couldn't go out because LA closed the trails, LA closed the roads. It was crazy. But yeah, we had a lot of great quality time, but I love spending time with him every single day. So it didn't really change much, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
No, that is. How long were you guys together before you got married?
It had to be in 2013.
Oh, okay,
So
so
Dang.
6 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because my dad passed away in 2012.
No, dang.
2013 is when 1 year exactly to the T is when I met Peter. And then, yeah. And we're hitting our 10 years since we met each other.
Dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Crazy.
I know, time flies.
Time flies.
Wait, so you guys got married in 2019.
Yes.
Did you guys get a chance to do a honeymoon or anything before
No,
the
it
pandemic?
got canceled.
Oh, no. God.
I was so mad. So I was still at my 9 to 5 corporate job. So that the plan was to like quit my 9 to 5 so I can like work on like my agency thing. And then I was going to take like a month in Europe. And then we started hearing the news like borders are shutting down. Italy is shutting down. Like we were trying to go to Italy, Greece, do a weekend in Ibiza for opening like weekend. And then we're like, oh my God, we can't go. And then I had to stay at my 9 to 5. They asked me to stay on for a couple of months just to see a couple of things through. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm still stuck at my job.
Dang,
And the
that's
world's
long.
falling apart, and I'm
world is-
still working a 9 to 5.
Yes, it was so crazy. I was like, what is happening to the world?
Oh my God. So did you guys eventually do it?
We did. We went last year.
Oh, nice.
So we still did like a 3-week situation in Greece, London, where I did see Liz.
Oh, nice.
And then where else did we go? Greece, London, Spain.
Greece, London, Spain. I think I went to everywhere last year too, except for Greece.
Love it.
Yeah. So I'm going back. Well, I mean, obviously I told you I'm going to Copenhagen tomorrow. So that's going to be fun. I mean, hopefully fun. But
Yeah.
I mean, I want to travel more still. This year is probably one of the least compared to last year. Last year I was gone like 5 months out of the year. So it was a lot of traveling.
crazy.
But didn't you try to do like that nomad life?
I did. Actually,
What?
I did because I was so during the pandemic or when the world started opening up a little bit. So I quit my job, like officially ended it, started my nomad life. I was like, oh, I wonder what it would be like to work online because my life is digital, to work online and travel wherever I want. So what we did was that we packed up our apartment in Hollywood, our lovely little apartment, got rid of it. And then we went to New York for 2 months.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, went to New York for 2 months, worked online, lived out there in the city, and it was so fun. Ups and downs. Obviously, New York life is kind of crazy.
Yeah. What was it like?
Oh, man. Okay, I have a funny story.
Ooh.
Ooh, get into it.
I have a really funny story. So finding long-term rentals at the time in New York was so hard. It was pretty hard. So we were just grabbing Airbnbs where we could because we already set the dates. And the first apartment that we had in Bed-Stuy, we literally got in and we left that same day because it was like bug infested. There was like cockroaches. There was like gnats up in the ceiling. We're like, oh my God, like how could this get any worse? So
Oh, you never say that.
yeah. So then, well, this is slightly better. So then we were going back and forth with Airbnb. They found a brand new Airbnb for us to stay in this place called Two Bridges. Are you familiar with New York? It's like Seaport area. And I remember getting, if you're on Airbnb, you get the photo of like where the keys are, where you're supposed to go. And there were 2 doors. And they were like, okay, the address is going to lead you to this door. But make sure you go to this door. I was like, okay, whatever. So we roll up and I go to the first door where they told us not to go. And it's literally the back door to a bodega. I was like, oh,
interesting.
this is funny. But then I looked at the image. I was like, oh, it's this door. And I look over and I know why they just took a photo of the doors. It's because it's right next door to a Chinese funeral home. Swear.
Whoa.
So every morning we were there for like a good couple, like 2-3 weeks. Like on my morning runs, I would see the coffins going in and coffins going out. The hallways would smell like funeral incense.
Oh my God. You said this was a good trip?
It was let's just
Better
say
than the bug infested place.
yeah, it was,
I guess
it was
so.
better than the bug infested place. At least our neighbors were quiet too.
Yeah.
So
You mean the dead?
yeah. Yeah, it was crazy. So, I mean, it was a good trip because I got to experience New York, obviously all the good and all the bad, but yeah, it was fun.
What'd you guys do out there?
We saw family because you know
Oh.
how the pandemic, everything was just shut for like two years. I didn't see. I have a ton of family in New York, New Jersey. Didn't get to see any of them, and we had 2 weddings. Right, the first weddings out of the pandemic, and they were spaced like 6 weeks in between. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go out there, work, live the New York life, see if I like it. If ever I wanted to move back to the city or to the East Coast and spend time with family.
And what'd you think?
City life is hard, man. Like we
Yeah.
have it so good in California.
Oh, yeah.
Like we could drive to the grocery store. We could go to IKEA and pick up stuff. Like, man, I was like lugging groceries, like going from H Mart like 5 blocks, and I'm sweating because it's so humid and it's swamp in the city. I was like, oh my God, this is so hard. Because I didn't do any home delivery service for groceries. Like there's just like little things about the city where I was like, oh my God. I still love it, but
What about
we live good out here.
What about your husband? How did he like going to New York and everything?
He
Like,
loved it. Yeah.
Do you
yeah.
guys just are both mobile? Can like both go? and
Yeah,
everything?
we could just go whenever. But I think, with Sampa, the restaurant business, it changed things a little
Yeah.
bit for us, which I don't mind at all. So put that dream to a hold until we open Sampa, New York. So let's see.
Dang, South
Oh,
New
I like
York.
that.
Yes, that's the goal.
Is that in the plans?
Hopefully, yeah.
You heard it here first. So
marketing for it.
being together with someone for 10 years, what's some kind of lessons or things that you've learned that just you can impart on us?
Yes.
You're so excited.
I am. Because people do ask me that, like, oh my God, I can't believe
Yeah.
we've been together for 10 years.
Because I see that I'm like
10
someone
years, long
who's
time.
someone who's been together with their person 10 years. There's like such a difference in mindset and lessons and things that you've learned.
Yeah, I think communication is huge because, right, if I'm angry, I have to talk about it. I have to learn how to talk about it. And he has to express his feelings too, and just holding space for that person, even though you're like not in the right mood to hear it. But eventually it's just, all it is just talking things out. And for me, it was a lot harder because growing up, one, as a female, in a very passive culture, Asian American, we weren't allowed to talk about our feelings. We weren't allowed to say how we felt or how to express ourselves. And I held everything in. I still hold everything in, and I'm learning each and every single day to just be a little bit more vocal about how I'm feeling, whether it's good or bad, or why this made me upset. Because like Asian parents, they're not they don't want to hear it. It's either my way or the highway. So that's one thing I definitely learned how to do in this relationship.
Does pride play any part into your conflict resolution or communication?
Oh, that's such a good question. I have to think about that. Does pride play a part in it? Yeah. I mean, I sometimes think I'm right, or I'm always right. And no one likes to be wrong, but yeah, a part of it is that you do have to let your pride fall and be like, you know what? I am in the wrong. It is my fault, and I have to say I'm sorry.
Because I assume your husband also thinks he's always right.
Sure.
Yeah, and I'm sure he's also successful like you as well. Because I think quality people are attracted to quality people, right? So it's like, but I notice this sometimes where it's like you're two quality people and both of them think they're right, and you have a conflict, and sometimes it's pride that gets in the way of like, okay, letting it go. Because sometimes you can say like, oh, one person's wrong all the time, but that's not always true. You know, there's this weird gray area of mesh where both people are wrong, or there's an aspect of both being right in some way, and that's where it gets difficult. At least for me to like, sometimes let go of like my own pride of like, okay, you know, yes, we can work things out. I can let that go, but sometimes I can't. Sometimes I can let it go. So that's why I asked you, like, as a 10-year relationship, like, does that affect you guys at all? Or you guys have just like gotten past that hump and it's like, hey, we just know each other so well. We're both on the same team and just moving forward.
Well, relationships are always going to be a work in progress because I still get that, right?
Yeah.
I still feel like, oh, I have to be right. But I also, you know, going through years of therapy, it's like, where does that come from, right? Like, why do I have to feel like I'm right? Why is it so hard for me to say I'm sorry or I'm wrong? But yeah, that's a big part of being in a relationship and a big learning curve for myself too.
So it's funny that you say that because I guess in my mind, I had imagined, oh, you know, you're 10 years down the line. We don't got to fight anymore, or like our communication style is just so refined, you know? But, you know, you're saying you always have to work on it. And I guess that kind of like cements something in my head that a lot of people say where it's like, relationship is always work, you know? No matter how long it's been, it's always going to be work. But it's work that you're willing to put in because you want to be with that person.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I 100% agree with that because you know, the reason why I feel like we work or why marriages work is that as individuals, you still have to work on yourself so you could become a better two of you.
It seems like you have a great relationship, you know,
Yes.
10 years and everything. I want you to gush right now. Tell us why you love your husband. Give us all the good stuff.
Oh my
Tell
God,
us-
he's
go
gonna
on.
love
Yeah.
this because he said he's always talking about me, and I'm always like, oh, I guess you're right. I guess you're okay. He's gonna love that.
Wow, he's gonna get to hear it for the first time
He
on a
is.
podcast.
He's like, wow, she's never said that to me.
So much validation.
Oh my God. Yeah, I think what's great is that he's my number one fan.
Yeah.
And he's my biggest support system. And I definitely need that. And he has a lot of love to give, not just to me, but to my family and to his friends. And you see that. And I think that's so important. And also, I just love his positive energy because I need that every single day, right? I mean, of course, like, you're going to get sad. You're going to cry. You're not going to have a great day. But at the end of it, it's like, what's your outlook in life? Like, is it always going to be a rainy cloud day or is there going to be sunshine at the end of the tunnel? So, yeah. Thanks, Peter. You're great, honey.
All right, now tell us his red flags.
Toxic traits.
Toxic.
She said she
pulls
loves
out a
toxic
list.
traits. She said it. You know how, well, you guys have been married since 2019. So how long were you guys engaged for?
2 years.
2 years.
I did a 2-year engagement because why not?
Yeah.
Right?
No, I think that's right.
They get engaged and there's nothing wrong with it. They like plan the wedding and then boom, married. Like they want to get married and that's cool. But for me, I wanted to enjoy my engagement. I wanted to live my life and I'm glad I did that because by the time I was a year out and had to plan my wedding, it was a nightmare.
Really?
Literally nightmare. It was just so much work. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so glad I had that time to just be a fiance.
Like, hey.
Yeah, it was great. I loved it.
How did he ask?
He asked on his birthday. He surprised me. So I thought I was planning his birthday and I was stressing out about like who's coming to this dinner. It was at Wally's in Beverly Hills, got a private room, putting a menu together. Oh my God. And then when the cake came out, I turned around and he got down on his knee. And then I was like, what? And obviously everyone was in on it. And then the door opened and I saw my family from the East Coast come in. Like people flew in. Like, so he organized all these people to come in and see the engagement.
Dang.
My God, if you had said no, that would have like been
Yeah, it would've
so much. Oh.
I don't think he would have been able to live it down.
Did you know it was coming?
No idea. Well, he did. I mean, yes, like we've talked about it. Like we've talked about it. He took a measurement of my ring with a shoelace.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Okay.
I knew it was coming. I just didn't know when. So it was a big surprise.
That's actually
to me.
something I'm very curious about because like sometimes you see proposals where it's like they do it and the girl says no, and I'm like, so did they never like have a conversation about this? So my question is like, did you guys have in-depth conversations where you were like, yes, I will marry you, or like yes?
100%.
Okay.
Because so we watch a lot of reality TV. I know. And
is Blind,
yeah. And it's crazy when people are like, "Oh my God, I didn't know he was going to propose. I don't know how I feel about it." And I'm like, did they talk about this? Like, you have to talk about this. You have to make sure your values are in line, like your families are cool, like someone's got to ask someone's parents for permission. And the fact that people get engaged and don't talk about any of that blows my mind.
Yeah.
Because it's not just, sure, it's a love commitment, but it's also a life commitment, a legal commitment where you combine your incomes, your life, your families. It's a lot of responsibility.
It is. That's
So I
why I
wonder.
think those couples are a little weird.
Right?
Where I'm just like, damn. I feel like most of the time you guys are not gonna last.
Yes.
To be honest. right?
Yeah.
I'm not wishing them, not a happy relationship. But I'm like, dude, that's like kind of a standard that all couples need to have, right? Like I always tell, because I don't want to get married, so I always tell now.
It's fair. I'm like, fair. Yeah.
I always tell
Yeah.
whoever I'm seeing or dating, like, oh yeah, if you want to get married, the wrong guy. I'm just being honest with you right now.
You're like, if you want to get married, wrong guy. If you want to have sex, wrong guy.
We could just be friends at this point.
So you're trying to be my friend.
Yeah, we'll
That's
just
what you
be
mean.
friends.
But I do love that you're upfront about that. And
Yeah.
I think that's, again, a key part of communication, whether you want to move forward with someone or be in a relationship, not be married. Like, it's so key. So, yeah.
I think so too.
You know what's funny? I actually met a couple just yesterday who proposed on a reality TV show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was having brunch with my friend and just made friends with like the family next to us, and they're like, yeah, like we got married on The Real. It's that show that Tien Tamara hosts, or one of them hosts.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's like, yeah, if you want to look it up, he gave me the link to look it up, and he's there and he proposes like on TV, and I was like, whoa, what the?
That is crazy.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd be able to do that.
But you love reality TV.
I do. Of watching it, but not participating in it.
That's funny that we were talking about this because my cousin asked me, I think last week, he was like, oh, would you date someone who like wants to get married, but you don't want to get married? I was like, I think I would, because to me, I'm like, oh, it doesn't need to be like forever, whatever's, like, but I'll let them know. So it's like, oh yeah, if you want to date me for the meantime, like it can still work out for a little bit until you actually want to get married, and then you probably have to move on, But I would let them know beforehand. I'm like, hey, I don't want to waste your time, but if you want to get into this, I'm game. But
Is that the right mindset? Like,
don't know.
let me ask you, do you want kids?
Yes, I didn't want to have kids in the beginning, but being with my husband makes me want to have a family.
Was that always
that.
the case? Or did that something that grew eventually?
It grew.
Okay.
Because for me, I was always like, I don't have to get married.
Yeah.
I don't have to have kids. And then it just happened.
that's wild.
Yeah.
I do wonder about that because I've had relationships where it's like from the beginning, I make it clear, like, hey, like, I don't want kids right now, but I do. Like, eventually I do want kids, and I want, like at least 2 kids or something. And then there's, the people who I've dated, they're like, hey, like, I don't really want kids, or like, I want 1 kid or something. And I'm like, that's something that doesn't fit into my future. And I've always felt weird about like trying to change or force someone to conform to like what I want. Like I don't want to make you want to have kids. Although the way you put it sounds really nice.
Yeah,
the way you put it sounds really nice.
think that's
But
how it should
I
work.
feel bad where I'm like, hey, like I do see myself with a big family. Like that's what I want. And like if that's not what you want, why would I date? Why would we start something in the first place that's just gonna hurt? Why would we start something like not knowing if like you will change your mind? So do I have the wrong mindset? Is that is that wrong?
I don't think it hurts to plant a seed and see what happens. I think that's another thing with relationships now. It's very, I'm this, I'm that, and there's no changing. And if it doesn't work like that, then I'm going to move on. And maybe it is because of our swipe culture, or maybe it is because of our dating culture. Or I also have been watching Indian matchmaking and Jewish matchmaking.
Oh, I heard the Indian one is really good.
It's so good. and I think it's also because what they're saying is that there's so many options because of the internet. It's like one and done, I'm done. But maybe taking the time to just conversate and plant that seed, you never know what's going to happen, because look what happened to me.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, sure.
I'll have all the babies.
Yeah, exactly.
It's an influx of choice.
Yes.
You know, I see that in my own self, where I have like an abundance of choice, and it makes it so sometimes like I'm not willing to stick something out with someone who's like, oh, you don't agree with this? I can just go somewhere else, or like, you know, I have other options. And I see it in like the way I'm thinking, and I'm like, I try and fight against it too. I'm like, no, try it with this person. And then this other part of me is like, are you settling? You know, why not find someone who like fits who's has a similar mindset to you? And I don't know what the right answer is.
I do have to say, I love that you did say that you have an abundance of choices.
He's a hoe, basically.
I meant in general. I meant the. Didn't mean it like that.
love
Didn't mean it like that. I'm just trying to have a baby.
With how many women?
You know what's funny? Yesterday, so me and my family, we hang out every Sunday. Like I was telling you earlier, because like so many people come on here, like really change our perspectives on family. Like we hang on every single Sunday, and like I'm driving, I'm taking them to the park, and my mom's like, yeah, like you guys aren't probably gonna get married soon, but that doesn't mean you can't have kids. You know, just have a kid and we'll take care of it. Like mom, I can't do that. She's like, no, it's okay. Just like have one. You'll be fine. Like we'll take care of it. You don't gotta worry. I'm like, all right.
You're like, okay, it doesn't really work that way, but okay.
Yeah. Parents take those things so lightly. It's crazy.
Yes.
Like, they're just like, oh yeah, just go have kids. I'm like, what the heck? That would change my life 100%. Like I went to a wedding and this is just marriage, but I was wearing a suit. So my dad was like, hey, are you going to a wedding or something? I'm like, yes. He's like, oh, so when are you getting married? I'm like, dude, I don't even have a girlfriend. Like, what are you talking about? You're in where how am I gonna hop into like a marriage? You know, doesn't even make sense. But they're like, yeah, just go get married. It's like, yeah, we'll have a wedding for you. I'm like, what?
I feel like that's a little harder and different than just having a kid.
No, yeah, agreed, of course. But then even then, like you're gonna want to have a kid with a committed relationship, right? You're not trying to just pop kids out. You're not, Nick Cannon, right?
Oh my gosh.
Like that's a little different. For me, I feel like because my upbringing was very, I wasn't super close to my parents. They were always working, immigrant family, So I want to be, if I were to ever have a kid, and I would not do it on purpose, it would be an accident, right? I would want to be a good dad. I would want to be there for my kid and do all the things that I didn't really get when I was younger, Because I feel like that's why they're so loose about it, because that's how they handled me, loosely. Let's just have it, okay, and then, we'll just take it as it goes. But that's why I felt like it wasn't the healthiest relationship either.
That makes so much sense. That's, just coming from an immigrant family. Wow, I'm actually really shook, because that does shine a light on even my parents, right? Like, oh, just get married and have kids. But then, again, 3 years of therapy, or through months of therapy, I wouldn't say years, but through months of therapy, I realized like why I didn't want to have kids or get married in the first place. It's because I saw my parents' relationship. I know how we were raised, and we had a tough childhood. And I was like, I don't want any of this. Like, I don't want to do this.
Yep.
I don't want to impart this on anyone. And that's why I didn't want it.
Yeah,
That's
that makes
exactly
sense.
you. That's exactly him. That's literally you.
I don't know if it's me because so I have a younger brother and sister, right? And they both want to get married and have kids. I'm the only one, being the oldest, that doesn't want it. So our experiences differ, right? I saw my parents fighting all the time. They're both divorced now, and like it was just like such an unhappy household, I was like, dang, like what is this family even about? I couldn't figure it out, and I think I started seeing that more as I grew older. I was like, oh, I'm noticing a lot of people getting divorced. I'm noticing these numbers like changing, and even like the dating climate had changed. Obviously with swipe culture and stuff like that. I've never participated, but I mean, I can imagine having the abundance that this guy has. It probably makes it very difficult, right?
It's these clashing views for me. Maybe not clashing is the right word, but it's like I see my parents, and obviously not the easiest relationship, but they've stuck it together. They've been together 30 plus years. They are the kind of parents that I want to be like. They sacrifice for their kids. They put their kids ahead of everything else, and we've known that from a young age. Like my parents hustle, they work hard, and it's always like, we're trying to give you a better life than we had, and I've always admired that so much. And I have that kind of mindset for myself, but it's also, it's like clashes with like the dating culture right now, you know, with my views on it, my own relationships with it. It's like I do want this, but a part of me like fights against it. Like I know I can find it with someone, you know, but sometimes I'm like, am I settling? Is there a better choice out there? Is there something more that fits me? You know, am I supposed to wait till because for me, it's like there's these feelings of when you felt in love, you know, when you've met people that you're like, wow, this is my person. You know, this is someone that I just vibe with like on another level. And that's only happened to me like 3 or 4 times in my life, you know? So sometimes I'm like, if I don't have that, like, is this really the right person for me? And that's where it gets tricky for me. Because I have had chances to be like in long terms with someone and like develop that relationship that my parents have, you know, someone who'd be really good for me, but I don't know if I should.
That sounds like the issue is that everything comes from the initial, right? Meaning, is this the person for me? Do I have that same vibe that I've had with someone else? But I think in a lot of relationships, you know, being in a 10-year relationship myself, a lot of longevity comes from like cultivating that love. So it's not something that you have initially. I would say that's more lust than anything, right? So when those things like subside, like the lust, you know, honeymoon phase and stuff like that, and what you're really about, like your morals and the things that you agree on, the things you want to do, things that you kind of sometimes build together, because you don't get it until you go through phases in your relationship. You know what I mean? Because I feel like really good long-term relationships, they go through a lot of fire in order to get to where they're at.
Truth.
Yeah. Because I feel like, you know, I see all the time with couples that never fight or never get into like any kind of hardships. I'm like, I feel like when it does happen, it's going to be really, really hard. And most of the time, too, it's because they're kind of being avoidant and they don't want to acknowledge that, oh, yeah, we have problems too, or things that could be better even. Because it doesn't necessarily have to be problems to want to have a better relationship.
Well,
Things could improve.
Let me ask you guys then, since you guys have both had 10 years, were your the way your relationship started, did you guys have a honeymoon phase? Did you guys have the chance to build like a foundation first before, you know, the fire, before having fights and everything? Or was it like from the get-go, like...
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first.
Okay.
For me, well, it depends. My 10-year one was in my youth, you know, from when I was like 17 to 27, you know? So it was initially a lot of lust. And for me to have stayed in it for that long, it required a lot of work through the fire. Because when that lust subsided, I was like, oh shit, we actually do have a lot of issues. A lot of things we need to fix. You know, I was one of the first, well, no, it definitely was me. I asked to go see a couple like therapists because I was like, I don't feel like we could do this alone, because we were so set in our ways because of how we got into the relationship because of lust, that we didn't know how to change some things. And when we figured like, oh, we can improve, that's when things got better. Obviously, we still didn't last, but I definitely know now I handle my relationships a lot better because of that. I've learned so much from that. And communication is key. And I think especially as men, like you tend to try to be like the strong one, you know? Like you want to not show that you're hurt or angry, and you don't want to yell, right? Because that's a losing battle. Never yell if you can avoid it. But at the same time, I was like, oh, you know, there is like a softer side to me that I had to learn how to be with my significant other at the time. And it was something I had to overcome because I learned to, you know, just be like, you know, a guy all of my life. That's all I knew. It's like, hey, just be tough, not express your feelings. But I felt like usually when you do that, there's a lot of resentment when you hold things back. You don't talk about it. And yeah, I think, no, every relationship needs fire to kind of come out the other side a lot stronger. You know, I'm not saying cause unnecessary drama. You know what I mean? Like, don't fight for no fucking reason. But because life's already hard enough as is, right? But I think the necessary things that you got to talk about, you know, like communication, being open, right? And insecurities, definitely. You know, a lot in relationships, a lot of insecurities, things that, because if you care about this person, they're gonna make you feel some type of way, you know. And maybe it's not even them doing it. Maybe it's like the situation that they put themselves in or end up being in. But you have to discuss those things because it's gonna happen. You're gonna get tested, right? And you know, I talk about it all the time where I'm like, I'd rather have my significant other tested and see if like this is good for us versus just be avoidant and not have it happen at all. So to me, yeah, I think that's what I would do.
It's been so long. I'm really trying to remember.
And I ask because I've had I've had different relationships where sometimes like, you know, and it doesn't have to be lust. When you start a relationship and you have that honeymoon phase, it's just like a period of like, I don't know, you're enamored, you're having fun, you're building stuff, you know, and it's like it lays the like the brickwork for building something with your partner. But sometimes if you start fighting from like the first week that you get together, like that's what I mean. Where I'm like, but you still continue to stay with this person. You're constantly being tested like every week. Does that still evolve into like a long term something that you can consider healthy? Because I have a hard time with that, where it's like I've had a relationship where it's like everything was good, honeymoon phase, whatever, first 3-4 months, 5, whatever, you know, and then we started getting tested, you know, that's different. And then I've had one where we started fighting from the week of, you know, and it's like every week something tested, and like for me the foundation was like shaky. That's why I asked if you guys have had similar experience or how you relate to that.
Yes, relatable, but relatable in a sense where, okay, so honeymoon phase, I still feel like I am in my honeymoon phase.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like we still have fun and it's spontaneous.
10 years?
10 years, baby.
Wow.
Dang.
Wow.
Because, you know, we go out. We
Shout
like
out to
hang with
Peter.
friends.
Shout out to Pete.
Gosh. He's going to love that. Yeah, I still feel like I'm in my honeymoon phase and I feel like, you know, you're in a loving relationship. Not saying it should feel that way, but you should have moments of that. But I think, you know, he's going to hate me for saying this, but, you know, when I first met Peter, I broke up with him like 3 times.
Whoa.
Because I wasn't, you know, again, it was like that, like, I wasn't sure. I was in PR at that time, working at a tech company. I was like, you know, I need to focus on my career. And I was in the office until 10 p.m. and I need to like climb up the ladder. I was like in my mid-20s. Yeah. I'm like, I need to do this, I need to do that. But why can't I just let love into my life and just see where it goes? And
Wow, I'm actually super impressed. Like 10 years, still feeling like the honeymoon. I feel like that's just the standard now.
Did he like fight for you every single time?
True.
Did you fight for it? Like how?
it was a mix of both. I
Okay.
think the third time I fought for it the last time. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I let's try this again.
Was this in a span like a year? Or
No,
like,
this was like a span of like 3 months, maybe 2.
Oh, wow.
3 months.
Because we met on Tinder and then
Dating at
Tinder love
first.
story.
okay, I'm gonna backtrack on this.
Go ahead.
We met on Tinder. Tinder was barely new, right? It came out 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So it was like this new thing where everyone was like, "Oh my god, you should try Tinder." And I was like, because I was so sick of dating in my circle. I was like, dancer circle.
Yeah.
Oh, they're all hoes.
And I was just like, I cannot anymore. And a girlfriend was like, you should try it. People are going out on dates. And this is before when Tinder was like a hookup app. People were like going to dinners, drinks, bowling. Like it was crazy. And so he was my second Tinder date. I was his first Tinder date.
Oh, wow.
That's super new. But within the week, we started hanging out with each other. We were like, he was like, "Oh, be my girlfriend." I was like, "Okay."
What? Well, how old were you guys?
I had to have been 24,
Okay.
23, 24. Yeah, and he's 4 years older than me.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I think then the breakups started happening within the first month or 2.
First month or 2. Wow. Just as quickly as it started.
Yes, because I was like, I don't know, I'm not sure. You know, I just got, you know, I still live my single life, so I wasn't sure, but here I am.
I love that you had such a happy ending experience to, you know,
Yeah.
the Tinder thing. For me, like I ended up meeting a hunchback, a furry, some girl who punched me in the face.
Are you serious? Gosh, wait. Can we divert a little bit? Can I hear the story? Or can we not?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
you can.
Yeah, which one do you want to hear?
The one who punched you in the face?
Okay. So, very similar. It was like a date and everything too. It was before Tinder was like a hookup app. So we'd gone to dinner and everything. We'd gone along. We started dating. We were dating. It was like a month in, and it was her birthday. And you know, we were partying at her house. A bunch of her friends. She had drank. I drank a little bit too. We'd all like played at the end. Played beer pong games, whatever. At the end of the night, when everyone's gone, it's just me and her. We're like in her bed, and she's like on top of me and we're like talking. We're not like doing anything. We're just like, you know, sometimes as a couple, you're just talking about stuff. And she's like, she says some kind of word or I said a word and I was like, she's like, that's not a real word. I'm like, yes, it is. I don't even know what the word is. I cannot remember what the word was. And I was like,
I mean,
yes,
you got hit, so
yeah.
I expect you to remember that.
And she had told me earlier in the day too that she's had like a doctor's appointment or whatever, and I was like, okay. We argued about the word, and I Googled it. I'm like, look, this is the word. See, you're wrong. And she was the kind of person who's very like, she's very like
Strong.
very strong, independent, very like alpha female. Like, you know, she was very smart, you know. So she got mad, and so she's like on top of me, and she swings at me just like,
Dang.
and I was like,
Gosh.
what the heck?
Get out of there now.
Yeah. So, and that's what I'm like. And I get her off me, and I'm leaving. You know, I'm getting my stuff, leaving, and I'm walking towards the door and everything. And she like grabs my hand. She's like, "No, wait, I have cancer." And I was,
Oh my gosh.
so I was like, "What? All right." And in my head, in that moment, like it flashed. I'm like, "Oh," and please know I was very young at the time, okay? I was like 22, 23 or some
Got
shit like
it.
that. I was like, man, do I leave or do I want to be the kind of guy who walks on a girl who has cancer? So I stayed.
Oh my god.
She had told me before, like I told you, she has doctor's appointment. Before that, she had told me how she had cancer years ago before. She was like, you know, whatever, in remission, everything, right? So we continue to date. And she goes and she like, you know, every like week or so she does her therapy stuff, whatever that she has to do. And me being like young and like wanting to be a good partner, like, hey, like, you know, I will go with you, like I'll be there to hold your hand. I will like, you know, I want to be a part of this, you know, like let me help. She's like, no, like I don't want you to like see me like this and all this, and like please don't tell my family. I don't want them to go through that again, blah blah blah. And I'm like, yeah, okay, you know, that makes sense. And we date, and like, you know, her hair never falls out, like nothing, like she's like sick, but like nothing like super obvious, you know, we're kind of like there. And she always wears this patch in her back where like I guess like the needle goes or something. And one day I see it like her without her patch, and I'm like, there's nothing there, there's no scars or anything, you know. And I'm like, has this girl been faking cancer for months?
Oh my gosh. No.
And me being young, like I'm like, we never, like I never confronted her about it exactly. We kind of like weirdly, like it was a weird breakup where like I ended things with her when like I don't know if we had been like drinking or like we were high or something. It was a weird like breakup, you know. It's so hard, but like I could never bring myself to be like, you're lying about cancer. But like in hindsight, like I'm pretty sure she was lying about cancer.
Oh my gosh.
So that's my Tinder experience.
I'm shook from the core.
I'm sure in some parallel life I found my Tinder love and got married too. We were together 10 years, but it's not this one.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, I met Pete. You can tell he's a great guy.
Yeah.
When did you realize like he was your guy?
When we had the conversation, we were on that booze cruise.
Oh.
You know the booze cruise, right? The cruise that people go from Long Beach to like Ensenada, like a 2-day.
Yeah.
It was like a company thing. And
Is that the one you got cut off from drinking?
Yeah.
Okay.
No way.
Yeah. First night they cut me off.
It's cut off at a booze cruise.
It's funny. I mean, the cruise is a little ratchet.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, it's
How
a
ratchet
booze
do you
cruise.
have to be cut off from drinking though?
Pretty ratchet. Really ratchet.
I was just having a good time.
Oh my god.
They were like $180 wristbands. You think you drink all you could drink, right? So that's what I did.
Oh my gosh. They're probably trying to save all their alcohol.
They knew I was like trouble. What's crazy is that I think when you pay for the wristband, you get like a max of 15 drinks a day or something like that. We surpassed that, and then we spent an extra like $3,000 on drinks or something.
What? That's why. That's why they cut
that's
you
probably
off.
why. They knew. But I can't even believe it because I woke up and they're like, oh yeah, they cut you off. Like they took away your wristband. I'm like, what? They did?
Oh my
I didn't do anything crazy. I just fell asleep outside the club. That's it. And then the guy
That's not
wheelchaired me.
bad at all.
No, it's not. But I guess it doesn't take much for them to kind of.
I'm sure there's some crazier stuff that
Nah,
happened.
dude, there's no way.
I'm sorry. Continue your story.
Sorry. So, funny side story. Loved it. So while we were on the booze cruise, I think we were about a year-ish in. He was like, hey, we had that conversation of, I really want to marry you, and you're the person I see forever. And I was like, okay, I'm down.
The first year?
Yeah, I think first year. It had to have been the first year.
Wow.
First
So then you guys didn't get engaged till the 6th year.
3 years.
3 years.
They got engaged at 4, and we did 2.
Doing math way faster than me.
Yeah,
Love
me
that. Yeah. I was like, okay, cool.
Dang.
And that was the first conversation of like us, like, what does the future look like?
Yeah.
Getting together, married.
That was after your breakups, right?
Yes, definitely after the because the breakups all happened within like a month, 2 month span.
Dang. Because for me, I don't know if it's the same for you. When me and my, because in the 10-year, like we had a couple breakups too. And it was always like me going after her, getting her back. And I felt like after a while, our relationship got weaker. But it was obviously broke up like once a year. So it was very rocky, kind of like what Mario was saying. And I don't know if I would do that now. For me, I'd rather, if we break up, we're just going to break up. I'm not sure if it's because like we're at this age where I just don't want to waste my time anymore. It's like, hey, we're in our 30s. Like, I don't want, if we're going to break up, let's just break up. Now I try to honor that as much as I can. But when I was younger, I was very forgiving of that. I'm like, sure.
And there's a counter argument where, that first,
That's what I'm saying.
that first month, you tried, got broken up 3 times. Like,
We got it all out in the beginning.
yeah.
Because do you think you could do that now?
Do what?
If you guys break up or whatever's, I mean, in your case, divorced, right?
Okay.
You think you would make it work again?
Oh man, that's a hard question. I mean, yeah, I would love to, right?
Yeah.
I look at the camera, I'm like,
Because I don't know any couples who've done that because a breakup is very different than getting divorced.
True.
Right?
It's so different because when you're married, it's just there's so much that's going into the relationship or have been into the relationship. When you're breaking up, you're just breaking up.
Yeah.
What's
exactly.
changed now that you're married?
Nothing really.
Nothing?
Yeah, no, it actually hasn't changed. We still do our thing. Like I have my own life, he has his own life. We come together, we still hang out, we still party. Like it's literally the same since we met each other.
Wow. I love that.
Yeah.
Good little-
No,
That's a healthy relationship.
That's very healthy. I did like how you identified your roles. Like first thing you said, you're a wife, a daughter, a sister. So I wanted to ask a little bit about your family relationship. Like
yes.
how I know you said you guys grew up a little rough. But how is it now?
I mean, it's a lot better now, obviously, because I've had time to process. I've had time to talk it out with the people that I know. Yeah, it's just I'm older, and there's a lot of things, when you get older, you look back and you're like, oh, all this had to happen for a reason. So I'm at peace of what happened when I was young. And I think a big part of it too is because immigrant family.
Yeah.
And there's a whole new thing on Instagram, like toxic Filipino culture.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I've been saying toxic Filipinos for years. Like
Before it was a trend.
yeah, it's all the girls that I dated.
That's the type.
I love it.
Wait, so what happened in your family? Because it sounds like you guys talked about it a little bit before. You said it was kind of rough.
Yeah, I think what it was that okay, and this is probably stemming from how I work with my relationship now or how I view my relationship now. There was not a lot of love in my household growing up. I think you know how you had mentioned where your parents just like stay together and just have kids and just have marriage just for the sake of marriage. And I personally just didn't want that for myself. Like I want love and I want happiness. And I think because of that standard at the time, it trickled down to us.
Oh.
Right. And I just don't think my parents were happy with each other. And honestly, now, I mean, I've had this talk with my mom, around the time my dad passed away, very hard death. I was like, if you guys got divorced, like I think that would have been better for both of you. But I think because Filipino culture is like, you have to stay married and it's against the church, divorce is a sin. But, that's why they stay together. But why does that make you happy at the end of the day? Does it?
I know that for the previous generation, happiness is more of a luxury.
Yes.
Yes. We are very lucky that we can like search for someone that makes us happy, that completes us, that we can find love with. But at least the way I see it for the older generation, it's a means of survival. Your chances are better together as a team, and I see that in lots of people. And some people are lucky; they find someone they're compatible with, they're happy, and everything. But I see it in so many immigrant families where that's not the case. But they did it because they need to survive too.
Exactly.
I've seen it. Like my parents aren't like love like this, like that. They're very like open. They're very like they're chill. They're cool. They have good relationship here and there. But they've shown love to their kids. Like the love they don't maybe give themselves, they give to their kids. And I know that it's like it's hard in the time and place we are now to picture ourselves like back then. But I've talked to some like my aunts and uncles. I've talked to like, you know, some older people where it's like, yeah, dude, like you're in this whole new country. You don't speak the language. Like you have to have someone to like try and survive with. And sometimes that person, someone you might not love, but it's, you know, it's a that or die.
Probably the same
agree.
reason why we have a lot of kids.
Yeah.
It's like
Yep.
better chances, right?
Yeah.
If you have
Better
like one
chances.
kid, you only one chance.
Yes.
You have 10 kids, 10 opportunities, and hopefully, you know, there's like a lineage thing too, right? Like a lot of people want to carry down your bloodline, right? And just
Yeah.
like build your village from within,
Yes.
basically. Because you come here, you're alone. Like you're gonna try to build from within. So you'll have this one other person, and hopefully some family members as you have more and more kids. But I think now it's weird because we're now able to choose happiness, right? And
Yes.
now it's like it's very different. And now it's not so much more about like survival, but really like I don't know if it's makes sense to you guys, but the mental health aspect I feel like plays a big role in our generation, more so than our parents' generation. I feel
Yes.
like even if they had a lot, and definitely for sure they have a lot of traumas, right? But they just don't speak about it. They don't communicate, so it's like really hard for them to really show how they feel to us. But now that's what we want because that's what we were lacking growing up, right? I'm like, I want to be able to communicate. I'll tell my dad, like, I love him all the time now, you know?
Yeah.
Even if he won't say it back.
Right.
Because I feel like I should know better.
Yeah. I think so too.
And it goes back to that pride thing. You know how you said you were chasing that girl and she wasn't like really reciprocating what you were doing for her? Like for me, I understand that my pops just has a hard time communicating and I should be the bigger person and let him know how I feel.
That pride thing doesn't apply for me to family because it's same thing. Like I've become a lot more open and vulnerable in the same way. And you say like I feel like as the oldest, it's my responsibility because I see the traumas that my parents have had. I see the things that have happened. I'm like I can be the bigger person. I can be the one to like open the path and like let's get rid of this generational trauma.
Yes. I do have to go back to what you said about, being able to choose love right now is a luxury, but, going back to my career choices and that too, like that's a luxury in itself. Like the life that I live, even though it's very far from luxurious, like being an entrepreneur is really, really, really hard. But the fact that I do have an ability to choose what I want to do, that's a luxury because my parents didn't have that at all. So I try, me looking back in my life, I am full of gratitude of that because there were a lot of sacrifices that were to be made that I didn't see. So I could live the life that I want to live today.
Are you close to your mom?
Let's just say we have a good understanding of each other.
Is she very similar to you or is she the complete opposite?
Similar in a sense of she is a go-getter.
Okay.
My mom, I respect the hell out of her. Like she really rose through the ranks in her career, did the corporate ladder, got her MBA.
She's a
like,
badass.
Badass, yeah. Like has her investments in check, like even got property here. Like she did it all, right?
Oh, she's single? Like,
Mom, you hear that?
I gotta. Is her name Maganda?
You love Filipinos.
It sure does.
Sorry. Keep going.
Yes. So we do have a good understanding of each other for sure. Just because I feel I am very similar to her in that way. And so with me being like, okay, I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to do this. I live at home. Like I live at home. We packed up our stuff because I needed to save money because I was dumping everything into the business and she opened up her home for us and she didn't have to.
That.
Yeah. So I again, definitely gratitude for my mom for that for sure.
Do you want to be closer to her? You say understanding, and it's the way you phrase it that that wasn't like, oh, you're not saying you are closer, but you said you have an understanding with her. Is there like a block there? Is there something?
I think it's definitely a generational block,
Yeah.
and that's where I've kind of grown older to be a little bit more compassionate of, for sure. Do I like it? No. Right? Generational gaps and generational divides. It's hard. I don't like it. I wish it wasn't there, but for me, the way that I see things, it is what it is, and I'm okay with it. Do I like it? No, but I am. But I am okay with it.
If you could.
Yeah.
would
Oh,
you?
yeah. 100%. I would.
I asked that because like I get a lot from this. I get a lot from the people who come on here and everything, and it's helped me bridge my own gaps with my family. So like I hope you can. I encourage you
know.
to.
Thank you.
I see it like the older I get, the more I'm like, man, like the time I have left with my family is limited.
Yes.
You know, they're older. We don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow. Any of us could die. Like, and I don't wanna leave this world without like expressing the way I feel to them, like how much they mean to me, what things I haven't yet said. You know, and I see these kind of like I always pictured as like in this like invisible barrier. Like I know I had one with my sister where it was like I was unwilling, and it felt like like this tangible block where I couldn't like talk to her. I couldn't like be vulnerable or talk to her and be like tell you how much I care and like how much you mean to me and like just that, you know, I hope you know I always got you, because we're more quiet, like we're introvert, we don't talk a lot. And I did it. Like I finally did it, and it was like this weight off my shoulders, just like so amazing. And now we're a lot cooler. We text each other. Now I have a group chat with my family where like we all like send pictures of our dogs. Like it's super nice. Like I've talked to my parents, and like I've talked to my mom when she had depression. I've talked to my dad. Like just trying to like get past that little gap. And it helps that my parents are decently open minded, but it's taken me so many small steps to get there. And I hope maybe if
Thank
that's
you.
something you want, that you get there too.
Yeah, no, and I definitely understand that, because I did mention this in the beginning, but my dad did pass away in 2012, and I was so young. You know, I didn't have the layers of understanding complexity and the things that we're talking about, you know, back then. But I wake up almost every day being like, I wish I could tell my dad, like, you know, oh, it's okay, or like talk or have that relationship with him. And it's tough. It really is tough not having him around and not being able to say it to him. Because I think I did grow up with a little bit of like a bit of an armor around my heart, and, you know, just, you know, being young and
Yeah.
just not wanting to talk to my parents. And I wish it wasn't that way.
If
Yeah.
he was to hear, what would you want to say to him?
Oh man. I would tell him I'm sorry. Just sorry for being, gosh, such a brat.
Yeah.
Such a brat. But no, I would tell him that I'm sorry. Ooh, I'm starting to cry now. Oh, guys.
Me too. I got it here too. Don't worry, you good. This is a safe space.
I
Nice
know.
talk.
I even feel like the temperature rising. I would tell him that I'm sorry, and I understand the things that you did, the choices you had to make for yourself, and I'm not mad at you, and I hope that you could forgive me for that.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah. Oh my God, guys!
I will take from that, you know, because there's still things I need to do with my parents, and you saying that, like, you know, like I told you, that helps me out too, because there's always still stuff that I need to tell, like my dad and my mom and stuff too. It's so many different layers, you know. And I'm gonna go home today and be like, Dad, I love you.
Yeah.
Like,
Tell them.
Yeah.
Because you never know. You never know when you'll see them last. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you have to tell your parents.
I mean,
or the people around you.
I know it's been like 10 years for
Yeah.
you, about, right?
Yeah.
Because I still have both my parents, fortunately. But how are you processing it now?
Ooh, it's still hard every day. People have asked me that, like, oh, do you still feel sad? I'm like, absolutely, I do. Like, there are times when I'm just like driving down the 10 freeway, because he came from Manila. He's born in the Philippines, and when he moved to LA, that was it for him. He never went back home, and I always wonder, what life was like in his eyes, why he loved this city so much. And I'd just be crying going down the 10 freeway, you know, passing downtown and, you know, South LA on the right side, and driving up to, you know, the convention center. And that part always hits me for some reason.
I think we all have our ways to kind of like connect
Yeah.
with those that we've lost. And it's like putting yourself kind of in his mindset, and just like, is this how he saw life? And just
Yes.
like,
You know, I'm sharing a little bit something. So, you know, I told you I'm going to Copenhagen. I'm actually going for my cousin because she's really sick. And being at this age, I don't want to risk the fact that I might not be able to see her. And I just got word. And this is my cousin Vin, so we have the same cousin. And I just got word this morning that she's like blind in one eye now, and the other eye's vision's going away. And I don't know how I'm gonna cope because like I'm flying out tomorrow, and I don't know how much time is left, and I've never traveled for that reason. I've always traveled for a vacay for fun, and this is like I know I don't have much time left, and I don't know because this is obviously it's not abrupt. Like we knew it was coming, but I don't know what I could do in most likely the last time I get to see her. To make the most of it, because when it's not abrupt and there is time that's coming up, like you want to spend it wisely, because at least you have a heads up. But I don't know what I could do to like give her the best time that she could have with me, before like she goes. Like, is there something that I just want your opinion that would help? You would say like something that would make her stay, or her final days like better. I don't even know how word it is. Like I'm still kind of processing as I go because this is still very fresh.
Yeah, and I'm sorry to hear about that. I think you could just talk to her and ask what she wants. What does she want to do? And it's tough. It's tough to see someone. My dad also had a long illness. So when you see someone deteriorate, and you kind of see them in their final days, it's like kind of this thing where you don't want to admit that it's happening, but it's happening. But for me, I didn't want to admit that it was happening. But I think you should just talk.
Just be in her presence.
Yeah.
That's the best you can do.
Yeah.
I think I'm just trying to be the best version of myself for her, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
Because I can't, for lack of a better word, be weak in front of her. I feel like, I think my approach is I am going to be as happy as I possibly can. Yeah. Because even though it's going to be hard, like, it's harder for her infinitely, you know? So I just want to make sure that she feels that she's added a lot of value to my life, because that's the way I see my cousin. Because I think she really lived like a full life for her short, as long as she's been alive. And I always think about this when I think about people who have passed, like what would they do if they were still here? And a lot of the times that inspires me to do more things. She inspires me to do a lot of things because I'm like, she's a go-getter. She would go out and live life and enjoy it and have fun. And I want to be able to do that too. And on days where I feel a little bit lazier, and days where I feel like no motivation, that drives me a little bit more. It's kind of like honoring their presence, and like I'm just scared that I might not be able to hold myself together while I'm there.
But that's okay.
That's definitely okay, dude. You don't have to be strong in the sense where you close yourself off to emotions. I think she would prefer if you were open, vulnerable. You can be steadfast. That's okay. You can project strength and still be emotional, vulnerable. You can still show how you care and like how you're going to miss her. There's no reason why you can't be there with her in her last moments and just be open to the grief, be open to the sadness, and then just hold her hand.
Oof. Got tears in my eyes too.
Hope you guys like this episode.
And my sister's going with me too.
She is.
She's more of a crybaby than I am.
Yeah.
So that's hard. My sister.
Were y'all close with your cousin growing up?
So she's always been in Copenhagen, but she always came to visit. And I think like one of the reasons why I cherish our like relationship is because I saw her grow up, as a kid, everything she got to do. I love that. I feel like I want to be, I try to be a part of my cousin's life too. I'm sometimes not very good at that. I try to do the best I can. But with her, it's like I saw these phases as she was going through them when she was younger. And I just like became very proud of the kind of person that she was. So almost like a little sister almost, And to me, like, I just feel like it's so harsh to see where she's at right now, because I'm just like, I don't know how to explain. Like, just life is just not fair, and
Totally.
And yeah, I just feel like I don't know how, because I always try to find a reason for, when bad things happen. Like, even if there's no obvious reason, but I'll just be like, oh yeah, and this happened. Now my reason to go out and do more is to honor to this person. And I think I'm just getting so weary to like always have to find reasons. But that's life, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna get older, you're gonna meet people are gonna come and go, and it's I don't want to say it's tiring, because to me, I do, now knowing what I know, really appreciate the relationships that I've cultivated through the years. But I just hate the idea that, for my cousin especially, because I've always loved taking her out. I always wanted to take her to her first Vegas experience and things like that. I just hate the idea that I feel like this more now when it's towards the end of things. You know what I mean? Like, we're talking about our parents because we don't know when they're going to be here or not. It's like, why does it have to get to that point for you to feel like that? I want to be able to feel like that all the time. Like, I overlook so many things, and that's why I don't want to say the word hate about myself, because that sounds like a very strong word, but that's where I want to improve the most, because I want to be able to show people that I care without having something bad happen to them, if that makes sense.
You have been. I think it's a part of growth, part of us getting older, where it's like you're making these intentional, conscious choices to reach out to people in your life that maybe you hadn't when you were younger, to your family. You've been doing the same when we hung out with your cousin, and you've been making steps to hang out with your cousin. Like, it's not rectifying. It's like sometimes you're younger and you're just not aware. You're so focused on your own life, you don't know. That's why this is just a part of our life now, where it's like, hey, I'm going to make actual steps to be close to these people. And it's not that they're passing away. It's not that their time is fading. Sometimes it is, and that sucks, But you felt this way before she started passing away. You try to get closer to the rest of your family too. And it's just, all we can really do is keep trying to grow, keep trying to like make these intentional actions, decisions to be closer to our families or the people that we love. And all this stuff that happens, like all these people we meet, all these like deaths and stuff, like it, in not a bad way, but like it does inspire you in a way to like, hey, let me try with the people I still have left. Let me try and like, stay close to them. Honestly, like tell them that I love them. Like I try to tell my family like, hey, like I really love you guys. I'm so grateful, because I know it's going to end.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
All right. All right. Now that we're all done crying, I wanted to ask about something maybe a little lighter. You have said you are a wife. Oh, sorry, a businesswoman, a wife, a daughter, and a sister.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your brother and your relationship with him, since we've had him on the show.
I know. I was just about to say that. My brother is like my best friend. We grew up super close, I think, because childhood was tough. It was just the two of us most of the time. And he's awesome, as you guys know. I hope so.
Yeah, of course.
And it's so crazy because I've always looked up to my brother. I've always followed in his footsteps growing up. So, he's the dancer, big professional dancer. I actually got into dancing because of him. Like I would follow him around. When we moved back to California and LA, when our parents got back together, my brother started getting into like the dance circuit around here. He might have talked about that. And I'd just be like, I don't know what to do. I know I want this and it looks so cool. And I'd just like follow him to all the jams, to all the sessions we'd have at the Glendale Galleria or like at the mall. And he's just someone I've always looked up to.
I love that.
Yeah.
Did he teach you how to dance? Did you guys?
No, I think I wanted to find my own identity in dance because people are like, oh my God, your brother's a popper.
Yeah.
Why don't you pop? And I'm like, I don't want to be like him. Like I need to carve something out for myself. So that's when I just started hunting for what felt right for me. And that's how I got into locking and whacking, which is totally separate from what he does. But yeah, I think I have taken class from my brother though. And I do have to say, or like taken like a lot of classes from him. And I do have to say, I've leveled up because of the way he teaches, for sure. Yeah, 100%. He's great.
Oh, I need to take a class from him.
Yeah, tell him to get out of retirement.
Ooh.
You should get out of retirement.
You should get out of retirement.
I know that you said you guys were really close. I can see it. Obviously, I've seen you guys at the same jams and stuff, you know?
Yes.
But obviously, you guys had a good pandemic or came out of it, leveled up. Your brother definitely came back from it, I feel like. Were you talking to him during that time? Because I had no idea what was going on with his life. I knew that whole video, that live they did, I saw that. But to hear from him and like how hard it hit him, I was like, wow, that was rough.
You know what it is? I didn't realize how hard it hit him until several months ago.
Whoa.
Yeah. And I think because one, the world was really, really weird at that time.
Oh, yeah.
Two, it just didn't, I guess, like, how do I explain this? You know, I'm personally an observer, right? Like I understand people, who they are over time. And that's how I was with my brother. I started seeing differences, like why he was retiring or why he was doing the things he did now. And I was like, oh my God, it's because of the pandemic. It's because of that video. It's because the dance community hurt him. And I didn't realize that. Or also, I know that he was big on being outspoken about his voice and his opinion. And it was because people were putting him down. But I didn't realize that it was making a cumulative effect until recently when everything hit the fan. And I was sad. And yeah, I think most of it I was sad because one, I didn't realize it, but two, it's my older brother and I've always looked up to him. And you know, when you look up to someone on a pedestal, you're just like, I didn't know that you could be unhappy, and I didn't know that you could be sad, and I didn't know you could be suicidal. I didn't know. And I felt bad a little bit. But I'm so happy that, you know, obviously we talk all the time. And I'm glad he's being more vocal about it. And he's telling people about his experiences and he's sharing it with others because, you know, I didn't know. I know a lot of people didn't know. But now that he's talking about it, I'm like, okay, thank you. Like, I know what you're going through.
I know he had a harder time. And I actually got to learn a lot from him and Peter talking about their pandemic problems and going through the that depression, all that. Because I had a hard time understanding all that. You know, I didn't go through that. I still haven't gone through that. And it's just like, it helped. His insight and Peter's like combined really helped me like get a better idea of what like depression is like. You know, and I'm very thankful for that because now I'm like, oh, I can be more empathetic.
Yeah, I do have to agree with that too because, yes, sure, like I felt very sad. I felt depressed before, but seeing someone who I've looked up to and admired and just seeing that so close, I've become more empathetic to it too. I'm like, oh wow, like that's how you see the world. That's how you feel. I'm like, okay, I understand.
Yeah, definitely, because when people don't understand, it's really hard to observe. You know, like you were saying that you didn't notice it with your brother.
No idea.
Weirdly enough, that's one of those things, right? It's actually super common for you not to notice it. It's always like the people who seem like life is great. That's usually when it hits them the worst. That's why when you hear about it, let's say like a celebrity like Anthony Bourdain, you're just like, why? You know, like what? You have like the best life. Like why would you choose to end it? But that's something we don't understand fully yet. I think it's still relatively new, at least the studies of it. You know, obviously people have talked about being depressed before, but I think mental health now is being pushed like a lot more in the past, like what, 3-4 years. I think it's just now brought to light because the pandemic really like kind it.
Right, which I love, especially, and I know you guys talked about it, especially for Asians or people of color, where you say,
Oh yeah,
no, where we have your cousin was like, people have a hard time saying I love you, and now it's such a priority for people, or maybe a priority, but also a topic of conversation, which hasn't been talked about, and it's so important.
Do you and your brother talk about, like, do you guys tell each other you guys love each other?
Yeah. I'm like, wait a second, let me think about this. I'm like, do we? Next time I see him, I'll be like, I love you.
He's like, what?
He's going to be so confused. He's going to be like, weird. Because I think for us, we obviously have a lot of love for each other,
Yeah.
but we don't say it. We're kind of like we're like when we say bye, we don't like really give each other hugs. We're like
That's actually going to be my next question. That was actually going to be my next question.
we're like see ya,
Yeah.
fist
Later.
pump.
I noticed it, funny enough, with like my Asian friends and stuff. Like, there's this like, and not as much with Filipinos though. Filipinos, it can be hit or miss, but it's that like physical, like the physical, or like even like being close to like your family stuff. Like, I love you and hugs and stuff. Me and my like I hug my sister every day. I hug my parents. Like, hey guys, blah blah. I'm like super physical. But I noticed with like my Asian friends and their families, they don't always do that. With Filipinos, it's hit and miss. I've seen that. I've seen it happen a lot with Filipinos.
True. I mean, like with my friends, I'm like, I
Yeah.
love you, big hugs. And with my brother, I'm like fist bump.
Does he say it back to you?
I don't think I've said it to him, so he doesn't say it back to me.
Oh.
Okay, this is what we're gonna try when I get
Okay.
back to the
Yeah.
world after this, and be like, "Love you," and let's see what he says back. I'll let you guys know.
Yeah. Send us a text.
Hey, send us a screenshot.
Or I'm like gonna give him a hug. I'll go in for a hug,
Yeah.
and I'll let you know how it goes.
He like dances away. Like,
I'm gonna do that too. I'm sending at least 3 people like a text saying that I love them.
all right, that's
After
our
this.
homework. That's our
Okay,
homework,
perfect.
guys. 3 people. Send I love you to 3 people tonight.
Yeah.
Today.
Okay,
Yeah.
we do that. I feel
Okay,
nervous
perfect.
already.
Me too.
Yeah.
I feel nervous.
Yeah.
I'm gonna text you that I love you right now.
That's too easy. You gotta do it to someone else. No, but like I feel like that weirdly enough kind of requires practice for us because we're so not used to it. And we weren't really taught that. My mom, dad didn't really say I love you to me when I was a kid. Now my dad will text back here and there. My mom, I'm very used to now. She's more of like the loving parent. You know what I mean? And it's weird because now we have two sides, right? Where it's like my dad's very rough around the edges, and my mom is like soft and loving. And then you kind of see that in me sometimes. You'll see like the rough around the edges guy, but you also see like, oh yeah, he's like empathetic and he could be caring too. But it's weird because I don't know which side is, for lack of a better word, like true to me.
It's both.
Is it? You think it's both?
It's both.
I love that.
You're just multifaceted. I see that in myself, and I see that in other people too. When I've like met their parents, sometimes we're just projections of their habits, personalities, all that, and sometimes we get to choose which ones we get to keep and which ones we can discard.
Yes. I love that. That is so true.
Like, I'm sure you can look at your mom like you're a go-getter, you're a hustler, like so is your mom, and I'm sure there's aspects of your father too that you're like, oh, yeah, I am like that, and
Yeah.
I just think that's the case for most people. It doesn't mean one's true and one's not. It's just you, because I've seen you display both.
Yeah, I think what I'm trying to say is sometimes it just feels like it's not me. Like being soft, like me telling my brother that I love him. I'm like, am I being fake? Like, because it feels
No.
like I'm like very reluctant, very hesitant.
I think that's just the perception you have of yourself, of an old version of yourself. This is just a natural effect of growth. You are making changes to the way you want to live your life. You're deciding how you want to be, and there's this uncomfortableness, and it's like, oh, is this really me? Can I be doing this? Should I be doing this? But that's just like a side effect of like you growing, of you making new like decisions. Because I've seen that in myself when I've tried to like do new things, and I'm like, I suck at it, and I'm like, oh, this isn't really me, and like I feel weird, and like but it's just like being uncomfortable.
Or have you ever thought about why do you feel that way and where it comes from?
That's a good question.
I think it's because, well, at least with my brother. Like, I'm not sure how. I think you see your brother the same way I see my brother. Like, I'm older, but I think my brother's extremely talented. He's very multifaceted, very charismatic, likable guy. And to me, I was getting upset because I'm not like that. Like, anything that I'm semi-decent at, I had to work my ass off to get to where I'm at. And I hate seeing him waste his potential. So I would want to say I love you, but also at the same time not be too soft because I feel like he needs an extra nudge. He needs me to be rough around the edges. But also at this current time, I think he needs to be soft too, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And that's really hard for me to find like that line, where I'm like rough enough around the edges where he gets the point and I'm like being serious, but enough softness that he doesn't feel like I'm attacking him.
It's a hard balance to find.
That
It
is a
is,
hard
you know?
balance to find.
It is because right now, he made a start. He made a start. He's been trying to do more things, but I feel like I could give him an extra nudge. Still, what did Phil call it? Soft pressure,
Gentle pressure.
gentle pressure.
Gentle pressure.
Yeah, gentle
That's
pressure.
what one of our friends called it. He's like enough to like nudge you in the right direction, but not enough to like put you under like duress where you're like, oh, I'm stressed out of my mind.
And I agree with that. I think, sometimes I try and like send my sister like, oh, the like I don't know, like memes or stuff that are like, oh, or like how do I put it, like stuff that I see, where it's like, oh, you should read a book of this, or like meditate this, and just like gentle little reminders. Hey, don't forget, like try and be better, try and grow, try and like make steps, without like being overly like, hey, start doing more.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And I think that's a really interesting way to talk to, siblings, family members, and even the people around you, right? Because no one likes to be told, like, hey, do this, do that, do this. It's that, what did you call it? Gentle pressure.
Yeah.
The like slow build, like, hey, slow reminders. I love that.
It's true. I think I'm gonna do that more. So after I had to talk with him, I sent him like a video on self-improvement or something like that.
Love that.
Yeah, but I stopped since then because I was
Yeah.
like,
That's
either
it.
he watches it or he doesn't.
Yeah.
But I think I
Yeah.
should shoot him a couple of gentle reminders here and there, just like, hey, I'll throw in a "I love you," and then I'll throw in a couple of like self-help videos. Maybe sign him up for like a workout class or something. No, seriously, I think it takes that because people always say like they're gonna have to want for themselves, but I do think that you could push people in the right direction too. I don't think it's necessarily you have to do everything by yourself.
I agree. Is there anything you would want your brother, like, to push your brother to do?
Oh, again, it's so hard because, I already think he's such a great person. And I'm just saying this not because like I'm being filmed right now or podcast.
Hey, just tell us later what you really think.
But I really, really think that he's a great person, and he's always been so good at carving his own path. Literally, it still blows my mind to be the black sheep of the family, the only one in entertainment, and do the things that he was able to do, like win a show, dance on stage with like Taylor Swift, Bruno Mars, and fly all over the world. Like who does that?
that?
You
Yeah.
did that by yourself. And that's why, even though I know with the pandemic, obviously mental health, it was tough, but he's going to find his way. And I'm so confident in that. Maybe a little too confident where I'm like, oh, you're good on your own. You don't need me. But I think that's a part of it too. It's like, I thought he was so good on his own. And I forgot to ask, like, hey, do you need anything from me? Maybe that's something that I just need to do. Like, what do you need from me? Like, how can I help? Because I've always thought he was like the coolest person on the planet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to Jet. We believe in you.
You got Jet.
You got this.
He's literally gonna see this. If this part gets posted up, he's gonna see this and he's just gonna make this weird awkward comment like, ew.
Or he says, "I love you" back.
Let's see which one comes first.
I know what his new thing is going to be. His new project. It's influencer Olympics.
Yes.
It's gonna
We love a good influencer Olympics.
Sure we do. You know what? We talked about that before. You said you felt your brother was doing so fine, and
Yes.
he wasn't. And we said a very common characteristic is you're always gonna act very strong, typically when you're going through that. And another thing is that for whatever reason, when you're going through it, people usually ask people if they need help. So you're like, hey, anyone need help? You guys are good. How's everything going? But you're the one who actually needs help. And I think a lot of the times that's why people don't ask if you need help, because you're the one lending a helping hand. So that's why if you don't get asked, then all of a sudden you feel alone. But I also do think that you ask people if they need help because you want to seek validation that you have value, right? Like, am I still worth something? At least that's what it was for me. And I think he talked about that too. And a couple other people, actually.
Yeah, I understand that because it's definitely a projection, right, of how you're feeling inwardly. Because right now, I mean, like I said, my life is definitely far from glamorous. And I think my way of doing it is not asking people if they need help. I just kind of just hide. Because I don't have energy, you know, I don't have a lot of energy to give.
Same.
But my brother, I see it because he's so giving in general. And I've had to tell him like, yo, you need to cut that energy. Like, why are you being so giving? So yeah, I definitely saw that for sure. As you said, my brother and I are definitely opposites.
Yeah.
I like hide. He's like, how can I help?
Yeah. That makes sense. Well, I mean, I'm glad things are doing better for him for sure.
Same.
Yeah.
Same.
Same. But I feel like now, especially people that you grow up with, you're so close to them because, they're around you most of your life, right? That people are starting to figure out how to communicate with their family members now. Like, it's just starting to happen, really.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I see it a lot of people. Maybe it's just the space we're in now. Maybe it's been, I don't know. But yeah, I've seen people our age like start to get more closer to their families, their brothers or sisters, their parents, and like, and myself too, you know? And I think it's just a part of getting to this age. You're in your 30s now.
Yes.
You have, stability and self-awareness. And you can think back and be like, oh shit, there's all these people. Like maybe, when I was younger, I was going through the motions, focusing on my own stuff, selfish here, trying to find this here. And now like I have actual time and can like make the effort and like get the energy to like care about someone in my life who's part of my family, and fix this relationship, do this for my family. So we're in that age now.
Right. And I do, with age comes experience. And I think experiences are a lot of part of growing up and getting to the space where we are. I mean, I forgot to mention this last time, but when my dad passed away, that turned my life
Oh yeah.
upside down. And I think the reason why I try to protect my energy and hide, and I like, when I'm going through a tough time, I physically can't help other people. It's because when my dad passed away, I just turned inward. I had to cut all this, like, when you're in your early 20s, you're meeting all these people, and you're trying to figure out who your friends are. And I literally downsized.
Yeah.
Literally downsized on everything. And then as I got older, I'm in my 30s now, it downsized even more. But I think, and I'm happier with that because I really want to be intentional with the people I have around me, the things that I do every day, and the energy that I put out there.
I love that. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers to that.
Cheers.
To the ones we've
Cheersies.
lost and to
Cheers.
the ones still here that we love.
I love that.
Nothing left.
Hey guys, welcome to Lightning Round, where we ask our guests some rapid fire questions. Jenny, are you ready?
Yes.
3, 2, 1. What's your red flag?
Wasting my time. Okay. Is that a red flag? Is that a real red
maybe.
flag? Okay.
Could be some people.
Yeah. What's your favorite Filipino dish?
Chicken adobo, baby.
Yeet.
Let's go.
What's your least favorite food?
Sometimes Filipino food.
Oh, okay.
Like dinaguan, like it's like pork's blood and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
black
Ugh.
with like intestines
Yeah, I
and
hate
stuff.
that.
So love it. Sometimes hate it.
What would you change about yourself if you could?
Nothing. I love everything.
What would you change about your partner if you could?
Nothing. I love him too.
Oh, that's the answer. No one ever gets it.
You're the first person.
First, yeah. I always set them up. I'm like, hey, what would you change about your partner? And they're like, and I'm like, you're supposed to say they're perfect.
Yeah, and usually the partner's here too.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Who's your favorite artist?
Basquiat. I have a tattoo. of
Oh.
him. Not of him, but a cat. Like his signature.
His
on
face.
Me. Yeah. Casual.
Favorite color?
Black.
When was your first kiss?
Oh, damn. 7th grade. I was 12? Was that 12? 13. 12.
Weirdest thing about you?
I don't have a weird thing, but I've never broken a bone before in my life.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's a
I
good
think
thing.
that is kind of weird.
No, that's great.
Okay.
Deepest, darkest secret?
I would never share it here.
If you could have anybody in the world eat at your restaurant, who would it be?
Oh my gosh. You did not. Dead or alive? Or they have to be alive?
Okay, how about a dinner table of 4, dead or alive?
Oh my God. Definitely Anthony Bourdain.
Okay.
For sure. Oh my gosh. Who's that chef? Oh my God. I'm blanking out. From Major Domo. Momofuku.
Oh.
Oh my God.
David
Chang.
Yeah.
For sure. David Chang, Anthony Bourdain. I want to throw something Filipino in there. Oh, Barack Obama. Not Filipino, but he's so cool. I
Pretty
just
close to
went there.
Filipino.
And then, oh God, I don't know. Dead or alive. My dad passed away. I would love him at that
Yes.
dinner table.
That was
That's
great.
perfect.
Yeah.
And then my last question for you is, what's one goal you have for this year?
One goal
Yeah.
for me would love to open up a restaurant this year.
Sampa, New York,
Ooh.
guys, coming soon.
Got to get LA first.
You're
You done?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, this is so hard.
What is your biggest green flag?
What's a green flag?
Something
Positive, you know.
Positive.
Like
Oh, so like good energy. People can make me laugh. Right?
yeah, she laughs at all her jokes. I
true.
love it.
I do. I love laughing
I
at
am
your
my
jokes.
favorite person. Where do you want to travel next?
I definitely want to go back to Italy.
Ooh,
The food is on point.
really?
Yes.
Favorite part about traveling?
Eating, experiencing new things, and meeting new people. Love meeting new people when I travel.
What's your favorite childhood memory?
My favorite childhood memory is back in Jersey, climbing trees, playing in the snow, just like really wholesome
Love that.
New Jersey stuff.
If you could live somewhere else other than Cali, where would it be?
New York City.
Dang, with the cockroaches and stuff.
I know. All of it. The nets, the cockroaches.
The hot garbage.
Yes, the
in
funeral
summer.
home that I'd be living right next to.
What is your favorite art form?
My favorite art form is actually acrylic paintings or like
Oh,
oil
really?
acrylic. Yeah.
Oh,
I used to paint.
Oh.
That's how.
what's your hidden talent?
I don't have a hidden talent.
Oh, really? Everything's out there?
Everything's out there. Everything's out there on like the internet, like YouTube, like
True,
I don't
true.
know.
You talked about it.
Yes. I don't. Actually, maybe that's what it. Actually, painting is my hidden talent for
Okay.
sure.
Yeah,
That is
'cause I-
definitely. Yeah, painting.
That
for
was the
sure.
one we were missing. Where like she dances.
Yeah.
She's not a nurse. but she
Definitely not a
paints.
nurse. Definitely not a nurse.
Painter, though.
Painter. Yeah.
What is your love language?
Service. Acts of service. Is that? Is that? Yeah.
Acts
Acts
of
of service. That's what it's called.
What is your guilty pleasure?
I love freaking Ben and Jerry's. It's like that cookie dough brownie mix, and I just love eating a pint of that.
Really?
Yeah.
Totally thought you were gonna say reality TV.
Yeah.
Oh no, is that guilty? I
It
love
could
it.
be. I feel like for a lot of people it is.
Reality TV and ice cream. There you go.
Really? Perfect number of kids.
2.
2.
Like me and my bro. 2, simple, done.
What's your favorite trait from Jet?
Wait, what?
What's your favorite trait of Jet?
Trait. I don't know. He's really good at dancing if you haven't seen it.
True. Okay, and my last question. If you could go back in time and relive one moment, what would that be?
Ooh, okay. I'm gonna go with gut instinct because I usually always say that I never want to go back into the past because I love everything the way that it is. But I would go back in time and just have one last heart to heart with my dad about his whole life. That's what I would change. Thanks, guys.
Of course. Killed it.
All right, guys, that concludes our lightning round. I want to say thank you to Jenny. Your energy was amazing. You were so great. You made us cry. You made us laugh. You're so great.
Thank
Let us
you.
know where we can find you.
Okay, so you can find me on Instagram, instagram.com/Jenny Valles, JennyValles. You could also find Sampa on Instagram as well. The handle is sampa.la.
And I want to say thank you, Jenny, for coming out. I appreciate being to connect with you after all these years and being so candid. I felt like that was a heart to heart that I get with a lot of our guests, but this one was unique. Maybe it's just the time where I'm at in my life, but I felt like everything that he said, and I appreciate all the advice that he gave too.
Thank you.
Of course, and thank you guys for sticking all the way through. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, and comment below what you guys want us to talk about next. And remember,
Live fast,
eat ass.